It was said that Eleanor Green had the voice of an angel, a voice that could stop time, stir emotions long buried, and even bring a tear to the hardest of hearts. She wasn't famous yet, but the buzz around her was undeniable. Everyone who heard her sing was captivated, drawn in by a strange, almost supernatural magnetism. Her performances at small venues always left audiences speechless, as if they were witnessing something beyond human. I first heard Eleanor sing at a dingy little bar on the outskirts of the city, the kind of place where you wouldn't expect to find talent like hers. I had gone there on a whim, hoping to discover something new, and the moment she took the stage, I knew I was in for more than I bargained for. Her voice wasn't just beautiful, it was haunting. Each note seemed to hang in the air, resonating in a way that made you feel it deep in your chest, vibrating through your bones. But there was something else, something underneath the surface of her songs. A sadness, maybe, or a darkness that I couldn't quite place. It wasn't just the music, it was the way she sang, as if she were trapped inside the melody, calling out for something or someone. After her set, I approached her, compelled to know more. Up close, Eleanor was as striking as her voice. Her dark hair fell loosely around her pale face, and her eyes, though kind, had a distant, almost hollow look to them, as if she was seeing something none of us could. "You're incredible," I stammered, feeling awkward but unable to stop myself. "Where did you learn to sing like that?" Eleanor smiled, but it didn't reach her eyes. "Thank you," she said softly. "I didn't learn. Not really. It's just something I've always had. A gift, I guess." We talked for a few minutes more, mostly small talk about her music and how she had only just started performing live. There was something about her, though, something unnerving. It was as if there was a weight behind every word she spoke, like she was holding back a part of herself. I became obsessed after that night. I couldn't get her voice out of my head. Every song she had sung replayed in my mind, day after day, and it started affecting me in ways I couldn't explain. I would hear her singing in my dreams, her voice calling to me from somewhere far away, echoing like it was coming from the depths of a cave. The more I listened to her, the more I felt something was wrong. At first, I thought it was just her sad, melancholy lyrics getting to me, but then I noticed other things, small, unsettling details. The way her eyes would glaze over when she sang, as if she wasn't entirely there. The strange hush that would fall over the crowd, not just from awe but from something else, something unnatural. It wasn't long before I started hearing rumors. People whispered that her voice wasn't just beautiful, it was cursed. There were stories of people who had attended her shows and had gone missing afterward, vanishing without a trace. Others spoke of sleepless nights, haunted by her songs, unable to escape the eerie pull of her music. Some said she had made a deal with something dark, something ancient, to achieve her talent. I brushed it off at first. People always talk, but the more I heard, the harder it became to ignore. There were too many stories, too many coincidences. And then there was the fact that, despite her growing popularity, there was almost no information about Eleanor herself. No social media, no interviews, nothing. It was like she didn't exist outside of the places she performed. Against my better judgment, I went to another one of her shows. This time, I made a point to sit closer, near the front of the small, dimly lit bar. As soon as she stepped onto the stage, that same chill crept up my spine. Her voice was even more mesmerizing up close. Every note so perfect, so otherworldly, that it felt unnatural. But as I watched her, I noticed something horrifying. Behind the beauty of her voice, there was a flicker of pain, of desperation. And as she sang, her eyes locked with mine for a split second, just long enough for me to see the terror buried within them. It was like she was trapped. That's when I realized her voice wasn't just a gift. It was a prison. After the show, I waited for her outside, determined to talk to her again, to figure out what was happening. When she finally came out, she looked exhausted, her skin pale and clammy, as if singing had drained the life from her. "Eleanor," I said, stepping forward, "I need to know. What's going on? Your voice, the way you sing. It's not normal." She looked at me, her eyes filled with something that resembled fear. "You shouldn't have come back," she whispered, glancing around nervously, as if someone, or something, was watching us. What do you mean? I asked, my heart pounding. What's happening to you? Eleanor hesitated, biting her lip as if she was struggling with whether or not to tell me. Then, in a low, trembling voice, she said, "It's not my voice. Not anymore." She told me everything, her words spilling out like a confession she had been holding in for years. She had always been able to sing, but her voice wasn't anything extraordinary, not until she met him. She didn't know his name, only that he had appeared one night after a performance, offering her something she couldn't refuse. He promised her a voice that would make the world listen, a voice so powerful that no one could resist it. But there was a cost, there always is. At first, it seemed too good to be true. Her voice transformed, and with it came the adoration of everyone who heard her. But soon, strange things started happening. People who heard her sing too often began to change. They became obsessed, unable to think of anything else but her voice. Some of them disappeared, drawn to something she couldn't explain. And then there were the dreams, terrifying, vivid nightmares of voices calling out from the darkness, pleading for help. But the worst part was the silence. After every performance, Eleanor's own voice grew weaker. When she wasn't singing, she could barely speak, her words coming out in a hoarse whisper. It was as if, with each song, she was giving away a part of herself, piece by piece. "I can't stop," she said, tears welling up in her eyes. "Every time I sing, it takes more of me. But if I don't, he'll come for me. He's always watching." I didn't know what to say. There was a deep, primal fear in her voice, a fear that chilled me to the core. Whatever deal she had made, it was consuming her, and there was nothing she could do to escape it. "I'm sorry," she whispered, stepping back into the shadows. "But you should go. You've heard too much." I tried to protest, to tell her I would help, but before I could say another word, she disappeared into the night, leaving me standing alone, the echoes of her voice still lingering in the air. That was the last time I saw Eleanor Green. In the weeks that followed, I tried to find her, but it was like she had vanished off the face of the earth. The bars she used to perform at had no record of her, and no one seemed to remember her name. It was as if she had never existed, but I still hear her voice sometimes, late at night, when the world is quiet and still. It drifts through the air, faint and distant, calling out from somewhere far away. And every time I hear it, I feel that same cold, creeping dread. I think she's still out there, somewhere, singing for him.